environment. Even the rammed earth is now being used in a sophisticated way. If you look at the example here we've picked, you can have rammed earth. It's better than using it in the ordinary form. But even Marmara, when you cut it well, you can actually use it very well, and it reduces the temperature. So we have a lot of things we can do using zero energy buildings. The energy is generated in the building, the energy is spent in the building. If you have a building like that, zero energy, then you will find that you would have had something that is sustainable. Smart buildings, I asked a question, is every technology-driven building sustainable? It's a big question. But smart buildings, they reduce energy consumption, all right? They reduce wastefulness, but their initial capital can be heavy. So you have to weigh between what you can put in now and what you can put later on. 3D printing is also a way out. Now with the possibility of printing a full house is very, very possible, all right? Initial cost may be high, but by and large you can cut down on some carbon emission. Challenges to sustainability. Governance. I already mentioned the fact that you need to get people in government to be involved. Technology. We don't even have available technology. Fortunately, I picked Kingsway Tower in Lagos. It's one of the latest buildings, a 15-story building. Those aluminum slits, they are like the Arab Center in France, done by Jean Nouvel. So this one, Kingsway Tower in Lagos, it also has some aluminum slits, but they are done in such a way that the flapping, they open and flap, and consequently, first of all, moderate airflow, but more seriously, moderate the temperature inside. In that way, reduce the cooling load for the building. But this is a sustainable practice. We can already see such even in Nigeria here. But I'm told it was designed by a South African architect, Sowata. Anyway, we have Nigerians that have done very good buildings. Architect Sada has done very good sustainable buildings, so we have them. Here I've shown skylines of Lagos, Kano, Dubai, very interesting, that you can make out for yourself. Energy conservation, we've talked about. Sustainable practices, professionals should be accountable. Every decision you take as a professional, you have to be able to say where it is leading you to. The architect must select its appropriate materials, explore design concepts that are culturally acceptable, use passive means that are timeless. Engineer must provide buildings that are stable for at least 50 years. 50 years. The quantity surveyor must provide a cost model that is very effective both now and in future. Sustainable built environment through education. Fortunately, we have introduced sustainability as a key module in the CC Maths. We also have many programs put together in the Faculty of Architecture, of which landscape architecture is among, interior architecture and design, furniture design, architectural science technology, architecture, and naval architecture. What it means is that you can migrate from one program to another. So you have a sustainable educational model that can teach one thing or another, and coming together in one faculty makes it a win for all architects. You can start to read architecture, but later on change your mind to read furniture. Of course, you know that all of those ones are right along with what we do as architects. We do furniture, we do interior design, we do landscaping. So bringing them together is a win for all of us. Sustainable development and climate change. Thank God Nigeria has established a climate change commission, but I have a remark to make on that. Conclusion. Sustainable built environment is certainly a topical issue that is built, that has brought the world to some consensus on climate change and carbon emission through diverse opinions on how to approach it. But now, this is my definition with the red line. I'll read it. Sustainable architecture is seen as architecture that is functional for the present purpose and adaptive for its future use or reuse within the life cycle of a building. I'll read this again and take note. Sustainable architecture is seen as architecture that is functional to its present purpose and adaptive for its future use or reuse within the life cycle. So if it's not used for something, it may be reused for another thing, but for a period of 50, 100, 1,000, but 50, let's name it 50, you can say that architecture to some extent is reused. Nigeria has signed many treaties, that's my conclusion, but we've not been able to implement a platform to actualize what those treaties are. Professionals must provide sustainable plans, designs, and cost models, and new practices must be imbibed. New designs, not just energy efficiency, but over time, use passive means as much as possible based on our level of development. The following are my recommendations. Professional bodies must ensure that sustainability is enshrined in their practice. This should form a major component of their submission for planning approval. In other words, development control units must now insist if you are bringing a building plan for approval, you should talk about sustainability component. They should see something, either by the design or by any means. You must provide a component of sustainability for you to get approval. 2, schools of architecture should enshrine the teaching of sustainability as a major component of their 30% CC mass. 30% CC mass means each university has a chance to develop 30%, and you can now enshrine sustainability in all dimensions. 3, parametric design and predictive models should form an integral part of the training of the professional in schools. Right now, with the CC mass, you cannot go through without familiarizing yourself with building information modeling with parametric research. Research that is based on indices generated from the laboratory of your institution. You have to get to that point. 4, government should ensure that unplanned areas are eliminated. Hence, all empty lands, especially urban land, should be planned and provided with basic infrastructure. There should be no empty land. It will be unthinkable if we come to Kaduna and find that some places have not been planned. You are looking for trouble because what you are going to see, you will have all kinds of miscreants inhabiting those areas. So government must be proactive. Before any layout is taken over, provide infrastructure and charge good premiums. But if you pause on the one side, or you don't want to charge people, they are very poor people, they are suffering, you don't want to. There's a lot of problem. You need money to develop the city area. So urban finance government must look at how to provide infrastructure in planned areas. Now, finally, a framework for the actualization of protocols ratified should be put in place as a matter of urgency. The establishment of Climate Change Commission is a step in that direction, but its mandate, however, should be clear, focused, and aimed at establishing practical avenues for achieving the objectives of the climate change protocols. I thank you for listening to me, and I hope that during this time for exchange, we can have better things to say. Thank you very much, and I can safely return your computer.
The doldrums we are in our horizon, there is the to sustainable building. We're going to take our next speaker, Olare Large, American Institute of Architects. Please don't be tired.
Olare Omishola, the architect Olare, he founded Creation Council as a professional business enterprise to build environment practice to meet for services in the building industry. For upward of 14 years, the Omishola has been different construction companies and corporate organizations in Port and Calabar in Nigeria, as well as from small maintenance job to multi-billion naira Architects with ACON, a certified management company, such as the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Institute, Pennsylvania, USA, American professional bodies. He has participated in construction leadership in Europe, the Middle East.
It's around re-establishing the role of the architect in creating equitable communities. Architects are important to our communities. And I will start by giving us a few introductions onto the paper. Architecture is about solving problems and understanding the context beyond the site. The practice of preferring solutions that fit while creating greater meaning. Architecture is a living story of how the values of society are expressed and how these impact on the built environment. Architecture is not meaningful without context. It inspires innovation, grows communities, and improves quality of life. That is what architecture is all about. Architecture is not about putting lines together and drawing, and then you said, an architect has done this. In this age and time, and in fact, way before now, I remember when we were all growing up, for those of us who worked in architectural firms, you will remember that those firms cannot function without the set of people we call draftsmen. Back in the days, we had draftsmen who work in architectural firms. In those days, you will hardly find a registered or seasoned architect sitting behind the drawing board and drawing with ink and pen the way we were taught in school. Rarely do you find that. The architects will do a design quite all right. They will pass the design on to those who draft those drawings. And they are more proficient and prolific in drawing more than those of us who went to schools of architecture. So when we are talking about architecture, we're not just talking about drawing. Many people today, when they hear an architect being called, they think about, is it not just to draw? He's an architect now, he's drawing. But ladies and gentlemen, that is one of the least parts of the job of an architect. At the center of architectural context are those who will inhabit or utilize a built space. The surrounding, that's the immediate environment, and the neighborhood in which the space exists. When we're talking about neighborhood now, we begin to talk about communities. Community has a broad scope. Not only neighborhoods, but any group that occupies or experiences a project. From a family to an entire city and beyond. Community includes the people and organizations that live, work, learn, worship, shop, and play in the project's area of impact. Culture refers to the shared values, rituals, stories, language,